We're back! Hello and welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th Anniversary podcast. Today we are taking it back to March 3rd, 2015. If you spent the last 2 months listening to our Agent Carter Patreon, you will not be surprised to learn that Uptown Funk was the top song on this day 10 years ago. The top movie at the domestic box office was the Will Smith and Margot Robbie film Focus. In case you thought Target's 2025 DEI rollbacks were their first nasty move, nope, they've always been a corporation. And 10 years ago, they announced cuts that would result in thousands of people losing their jobs. Slovenia legalized same-sex marriage. And folks were talking about how Hillary Clinton used only our personal email account at the State Department. I'm sure that'll have no bad consequences within the next year. Jessica Biel turned 33. Camila Cabello turned 18. Julie Bowen turned 45. And George Miller turned 70. But the most important thing that happened on March 3rd, 10 years ago, was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Season 2 episode, Aftershocks, aired on ABC. Hello again! I'm Jamie Jarek, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and level 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, Tony Paletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, everybody who's watching, listening along, or if you're listening later or watching later, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, we have a first-time guest today. I'm really excited he's here. He's a writer, he's a comedian, he's a producer. Adam Guerino is in the house.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thank you so
you're
much for
welcome.
being here.
Thank you.
Adam, before we get into your Marvel history, I feel like people have to know how we met, because it kind of felt like kismet when we met each other, because we have a mutual friend, Nicole, who Tony's been friends with forever, and you threw her a birthday party, and it took us like 10 minutes to realize we have a lot of mutual friends, and not just from LA. People who've been on this show, Brett Manis, Ian Carlos Crawford. And so when I found out you were an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, I was like, well, we got to have you on the podcast. So thank you. And you also, I invited you on a while ago, and you made a mistake. You told me, you said, oh, day of, if I can make it. So you've now been my reserve person if I have a last minute request.
Yeah, I'm always excited to be invited, and I'm glad that we were able to make it work this time.
Me too, especially with the Oscars. So, all right, so let's talk about your history with Marvel, because I know you're a comics guy, right?
Absolutely. So I'm a comic book writer, which is why I know Brett, and I know Ian through Geeks Out, the queer geek organization that I'm a member of, both the queer and the geek part of it. And so I was raised on comic books. My brother actually wrote a book called Comic Book Shops. So he's kind of, as far as I know, the only author who's ever written a book about people who make comic shops and things like that. So definitely very much in my DNA. My brothers are 7 and 9 years older than me. So I was raised on them, basically. And now I write them.
That's amazing. And for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., did you watch the show as it was airing?
Yes. I think, that's a good question. I think maybe that there was like a season or two that I'd be more behind on, or I would binge on Hulu as opposed to like watching it live. But pretty consistent the entire time. With me and knowing the comic book history, I like to think pretty well. I think S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of a hard one to know the comic book history of, because most of their history appears in other titles. There's not just one long series that everything in S.H.I.E.L.D. happens with. But they definitely take lots of liberties in the show. So sometimes it can be a frustrating watch as well as a very entertaining one. Yeah.
Fair. Was this your first time revisiting an episode since it was on?
Possibly. Yeah. So funny enough, I've met someone who is an actor that appears in a later season a couple times, and I saw them at a restaurant 2 nights ago. So it was kind of in the back of my head already. Second time that I've met them, and I don't know if we can do a spoiler for that later or not. But
when Tony leaves the room, you're gonna have to tell me who it is.
So it was in my mind already, and I kind of thought, like, have I rewatched that part of it or not? But I rewatched the mid-season finale, as well as the episode we're talking about today, in the last day. And without a doubt, years for those. But possibly just in general, I'm not sure if I've seen it since the first time that I watched them all.
It's crazy that this year is 5 years since it ended. Like, time is just really zipping by. I want to shout out to our chat. We've got a pop-in chat today. It's so good to see it crowded again after this 2-month hiatus. Thank you though for those who did join us for Agent Carter on Patreon. And if you didn't, it's sitting there waiting for you to listen to. I missed the rest of you. We are so happy you're here early today. You know I couldn't miss the Oscars, and I definitely couldn't have gotten a single guest if we had recorded at 5 o'clock either. No one wants to miss the Oscars. But we should be at a regular time next week, as far as I know. Keep an eye on socials. You know how the business is. Tony and I moved since we last did this, so that's why we don't have good backgrounds yet. Don't worry, we're working on having better backgrounds. It'll happen soon. Tony, why don't you tell the chat the rules in case we have any newcomers?
Yeah, if you're new or if you're returning, the rule is tag your spoilers. If you're going to write something spoilery in the comments that pertains to any episode after the one we're talking about today, just put spoiler alert in it, and that will protect people like me who are watching this for the first time. I hope we get listeners who are going through this the same way that I am, watching each episode fresh. So be respectful of that, please.
Yeah. So let's get into the little behind the scenes, what was going down. Aftershocks was written by our fearless leaders, Jed Mo. If you don't follow Marissa Chantron on Instagram, I recommend it because she's often raising money for a good cause. The episode was directed by Billy Gerhardt, who previously helmed Repairs, Nothing Personal, and Ye Who Enter Here. He'll go on to direct 7 more episodes through season 4, so he's a big one. We have now 8 main cast members. We have a new series regular. Tony, do you want to guess who our new series regular is?
Oh, a new series regular? Oh gosh, new people. Who were the new people in this episode?
Well, yeah, it's Adrienne Palicki, who plays Bobby. She is now considered.
Oh, sure. Okay, great. Yeah. No longer guest star, now series regular. Got it.
Yes, but so her and Nick Blood are both series regulars now. But Henry Simmons, who plays Mac, is still a guest star. We have a lot of guest stars this week: Kyle MacLachlan, Ruth Negga, Simon Cassianetti's, Adrian Pasdar's back. We get a Deachin Lockman flashback, and then we have Jamie Harris as our beautiful Eyeless Gordon.
Was this episode before or after the Wonder Woman pilot that starred Adrienne Palicki?
I believe this was after.
Okay.
I think that was a couple years before.
I guess it would make sense that it has to be after, because they wouldn't do this if like that was possibly something that would happen.
Yeah, I want to. My brain saying like 2013, but I totally think I'm making that up. But yeah, that has passed. But as somebody mentioned in the comments, she had made John Wick by this point, so she was doing some business. So Adam, tell me your thoughts on this episode. Where does it rank for you? Is it a great one? Is it a good one? How'd you feel revisiting it?
I liked it. I always love sci-fi explorations of coming out, because that's absolutely what these things are, is like, oh, wow, I have these strange feelings. And some people think I'm a monster and some people don't. And it's like, you know, it's always so much entrenched in my mind, at least, of the queer journey. So it's fun to see Ruth and Sky's character kind of have these different paths, which I think is really fun. And I liked it. I generally like everybody in the cast, so it was kind of fun to see them again, like hanging out with some old friends.
Yeah, and you know who wasn't in this episode was Brett Dalton. We had no Ward to
Oh shit, didn't even clock it. That's how much he pisses me off. I didn't even realize he was gone.
Really? Oh no, I love him.
Oh, well, Liz, you know more about his trajectory than I do, but right now I don't dislike him as much as I did the previous season. I do think it's interesting character-wise what he's been up to in this season. He seems to be doing his own program, and it's kind of morally ambiguous what he's up to. So I'm enjoying his storyline, but last season was like just me being infuriated with him. I
don't mean his character or anything. I'm saying this man, Hydra agent or not, would beg.
I literally, we've had a lot of queer men on this podcast, and it is 100% pro Ward rate.
Yeah, there's a lot of thirsting for Ward. Yeah.
That is the. I mean, yeah, Brett's a good.
Do not recruit me. Do not give me state secrets. I will tell Hydra anything they want, as long as it is him.
Respect. Tony, what do you think of this one? We're back. I like it felt so good to watch this episode with you this morning.
Yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a cliffhanger, and the follow through was incredibly strange. When at the end of the previous episode that we watched 2 months ago, watching that sort of hardened organic material crumble away from Reyna's eyes and seeing these little porcupine things and being like, "What the fuck am I looking at?" To now just getting this reveal, this very frightening and troubled character was like. I was kind of surprised that they went so far with the design of making her quite monstrous, as Adam was saying. And so I enjoyed that reveal. I'm proud of Coulson. My heart is breaking for Sky. I think I miss Trip. I mean, when we're going to get to the end, but them just acknowledging the absence of that person definitely felt that, because that is he was a good guy. And so yeah, I enjoyed this. It seemed it was tense, it was intriguing. I just, as always, can't wait to get to the bottom of what Sky is and what she's going to be going through, how this is going to continue to evolve. Yeah, I'm in it.
They did such a good job too at the end when they were mourning Trip, to have, not everybody knows Sky was unintentionally complicit with this. Suspected, kind of, we're learning more about it. But I love a scene where not all characters are on the same page and they're kind of experiencing things on a surface level, but below the surface, they're kind of all experiencing different things. So her and Fitz kind of had different moments with that, which I thought was really cool and well done.
Yeah, I love this episode, and we're in this part of the show where it's so hard for me to wait weekly, because I've spent so many times binging the show now that it's like, oh, I just want to get to stuff that I know is coming. But it's like, I've said this a lot during our Agent Carter Patreon, and while I really like Agent Carter, the feeling of being back to S.H.I.E.L.D. is so different. Like, I just love this show more than almost anything on Earth except for maybe Buffy. And when it comes to TV, and this one is just like, we're in it, we're back, and we're gonna get more into the Fitz Sky of it all. But that, I love that scene so deeply. This season 2 was really when Fitz became my favorite character, and remained my favorite character until a new character showed up in season 5. So I really, really love that. And I want to shout out some comments in here where Alice points out that she thinks Reyna is a goddess. She looks great. From Pluto says Reyna is a spiky queen, and I like this. I like everyone riding for Reyna's new look. I think that's cute. So let's start. The episode starts with a flashback. 1983, location unknown. We see basically young Gordon. We had seen Gordon briefly at the end of the last episode. We get Jiang back. Deech and Lockman thriving right now thanks to Severance. She's having such a moment. Love to see it. I love this scene though. And Tony, I want to ask you what you thought of this scene, and what it could mean for the greater show.
Yeah, I mean, first thing that popped into my head is we got some Nightcrawler shit popping off here. Like, I mean, this sort of unwilling teleportation, even just that imagery of the blue smoke is so visually similar to X2 and Alan Cumming and his whole thing. So I didn't think that this was a Nightcrawler thing, or even a mutation for that matter, but it just reminded me of it. Yeah, what a frightening existence. This eyeless boy who we saw at the tail end of the previous episode, now a man, is really mysterious and interesting. It is fantastic to see Deech, having been going through Severance, and kind of now making the parallel that there's sort of a similar mystique and tragedy to both of those characters, the character she plays here and the character she's playing in Severance. What was it? 1983 was where we flashed back to. So we haven't seen this chapter. Yeah, I mean, we've seen Kyle MacLachlan, looking younger, and we know about her fate, which was really fucked up and sad. And so I hope we get more of this backstory. This sort of looks like a small community of scientists who have been we're chasing the same thing that they've been chasing in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So yeah, it was cool.
Tony, yes or no? Do you think that she is Professor X?
No.
Okay. I'm just curious.
Great question.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that.
She'd make a great one, though.
Do you think that they're mutants?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, I didn't think so.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess I didn't get that far into it beyond into that thought beyond the visual similarity, with teleportation, Nightcrawler and stuff. I mean, Sky may very well be, but I know in this laboratory thing, I don't know how much of it is genetic and how much of it is an enhancement of a genetic thing. So I did not think X-Men.
Okay. All right. Good to know. We get now Coulson's kind of debriefing Sky while she's in the quarantine. He says the obelisk triggered a massive earthquake. And then we just see how everyone's dealing with the aftermath. May's punching a bag, Mac and Fitz are tinkering, Bobby's packing up trip stuff. And then Simmons is dealing with the tunnels and documenting stuff. So we're kind of getting this rush of how everyone's dealing with this really horrible, sad death.
We are indeed. And I'm like deeply concerned. I really wish that they'd done like some sort of, like the Seven Dwarves should have gone in there and found Rhaenys. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really mad that excavation science team got throttled by her. That was disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. No one had to die in those tunnels.
Yeah. They should have.
My coming out story also had fatalities.
Okay. Well, thank you for confessing that here.
Yeah, that's
good radio.
Respect. Good radio. We see this like Hydra meeting. We get a Von Strucker name drop. We know that like there's Whitehall wasn't the main head. He was like the North American head of what was going on. It's funny, like rewatching or watching actually for the first time the Defenders and Daredevil and getting ready for Born Again. The hand kind of operates similarly, where there's like a different person from each thing, and they're like a little stereotyped as the leader of their section.
I did like the Hydra UN. I thought that was pretty funny. I was curious though, like the Strucker thing. Is this our first time we've heard Strucker's name in this show? I mean, I know we're going to see him soon in Ultron, but I can't remember. Maybe somebody in the chat knows if we've made reference to him.
I think we've heard his name before, but okay. Now we're not sure. So the chat will know. So help us out. Has he been referenced? But we do know that like we're getting closer, and we're 2 months away from Age of Ultron's 10th anniversary. So we're inching closer and closer to that movie. Opens with Von Strucker. So at this point, we do know that Marvel, the MCU, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are connected. So who knows if this will connect with that movie that I love so much. All right, Adam, how do you feel about Age of Ultron? Are you a hater or a defender?
I liked it a lot. I got annoyed that they kind of messed with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver's origin story, but I understood why. I liked it. I think that it's a little too ambitious. I think the only thing that really annoys me is, at the very end, all of a sudden they have people of color joining the team and more women, and it's just like you could have had them in the first 2 movies, but all right, let's just have this like proud little ending like, oh well, we could have done this the whole time, but we're gonna do this at the end.
I didn't consider that. That's an interesting point. At first I thought like you were saying like, oh, women.
Too many women in the event.
I feel like when you take liberties with membership, like having Black Widow a founding member, or you have the Hulk on the team when he wasn't really that big of a part of the team in the comic books, you can absolutely have people of color and more women be a part of it. You don't have to be tied down to 1963's roster. So it was very much a choice. And when Joss left after the second movie, it's kind of like he wanted to pat himself on the back by having like all of a sudden there's multiple people of color and women, and Nick Fury was technically a member, but not really. So I don't know. I like the movie a lot. I think that, again, they could have had a little bit more diversity in the first two movies of the rosters.
Respect. I feel like the closer we get to Ultron, this is going to keep coming up with our guests. So I hope people like hearing about it because I love that movie. I'm such a sucker for that movie. Yep. All right. So in the tunnels, some red shirts get taken by the monster. Did you know instantly, Tony, that the monster was Raina? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Based on the spiky imagery only. Yeah, I knew it was her.
He's covered in thorns. And then so back at the base, Bobby visits Sky. And I think it's actually really funny that she like brings her stuff and compliments her, but then leaves immediately. Like she needs someone to hang out with. Like okay, bye.
Yeah, seriously, you could have sat there and talked to her through the window for a minute. She's like, here's some candy and some magazines, so you leave me alone. Rude.
And we have this really great scene with Fitz and Mac. I love any scene between Fitz and Mac, but Mac, doesn't want to talk about what happened. He gets mad, and then, you don't know what it's like to have your brain taken over. And Fitz is like, yeah, I do. So sweet. I just love Fitz so much. Adam, do you have a favorite of this current cast?
Of the current cast that we're seeing, either May or Mac.
Cool.
Fair.
Yeah, I'd say those two. I feel like Mac is definitely kind of probably my consistent fave throughout the rest of however long they may or may not be on the show.
Good.
Good. Great answer. Tony, what did you feel about this scene?
I think it's really sweet. I feel bad for Mac. He's tripping, but like reasonably. He got his brain taken over and harmed his friends and felt possessed and felt violated. Yeah, he's not in a good place. I think he's handling things pretty well, all things considered. And I'm a big, since last season, just a huge fan of, or I guess early this season, a huge fan of Fitz and Mac and their dynamic. Their sort of brotherliness is really sweet.
Totally. And we get this scene, which I love, which we kind of talked about a little, where everyone's fighting, right? And Mac is pissed. And Sky is causing something. Tony, do you have any idea what's happening with her?
I mean, this is the thing, right? Like I've always said, anytime you've asked me probably 20 times on this show, what do you think's going on with Sky? I don't know. I'm ready for the show to tell me. I'm enjoying the mystery. I'm enjoying the unraveling of it. She's exhibiting telekinetic powers that she can't control. They're rage-based, very Jean Grey. Like I don't know. Things are shaking. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not controlling this, and that's total torment for her. She's scared of herself and afraid, So it's like I really enjoyed that big fight. I thought it was well written and well acted. The overlapping, the conflict of it played really well, and it was believable in the moment that she could have some sort of telekinetic event without everybody noticing. It was subtle enough. I wasn't annoyed by like, look over your shoulder, guys, everything's shaking. Like it made sense that they were distracted enough to not see it.
Yeah. Adam, is it fair to guess that when you watched this for the first time at this point, you knew what was happening with Sky?
I knew what was happening with Sky. There was enough similarities with comic books that I know what's going on, and then also a little bit more about Sky already at this point, which was shocking to me. I was kind of surprised how random it felt.
Yeah. I will admit that the first time I watched this, I was where Tony is now. I didn't really know what was happening. But if you talk to like Brett, he would have told it was very clear by last episode what was going down.
Yeah, because this is the episode. That power set is what the clue was of Sky.
100%.
I'm thirsty. I'm ready, guys.
Yeah, Tony will get there eventually. So then they have this really fun, like, fake car crash scene, and it's funny because, like, I laughed when Coulson said, "You'll never take us alive." I was like, "Oh no, I probably gave it away." It's fake because I couldn't help but laugh.
It did. Like you giggling at that did assist me in appreciating the whole fiction of what they were conjuring. subterfuge that I always love that they do was so fun. And Coulson gave himself a line of dialogue that didn't necessarily ring true, but they were able to pull off the fake "we got shot and killed" business.
Adam, did you remember this? Were you like, oh no? Did you have like any moment of concern?
Oh yeah, when May got shot, because she was the first one, right? That
Yeah.
was like, yeah. I was like, wait, what? I don't remember this part. I also completely omitted from my memory Robot May. And so seeing her was a treat. I was like, hi, what? Yes, it's a very fun treat when a writer can write characters out of character and then put a flag on that something is up, because it's kind of a compliment to the characters that, like, you know, they're so distinct that, you know, when they're not acting themselves. I always think those are fun moments.
Totally. And I'm glad that in this scene they told us immediately what was happening, because like there's too much stress for me to think like May and Coulson have been shot, you know, like obviously they're not going to kill them so soon after they killed Trip, at least. I don't think Jedmo's that cruel, but I like that immediately it's like Bobby and his or Hunter in his American accent, which I love that Bobby makes him sound like a douchebag, because it does.
Yeah.
He's not very good at it, and I don't know if that's a Hunter thing or a Nick Blood thing. I don't know.
Doesn't matter. It plays.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Exactly. It really does. It's not like we had extensive talks on Agent Carter about whether Angie was a good or bad actor. And this is a different, I think, type of a thing. Then we get another Sky visit. Gemma visits Sky, and this is like, this is rough to watch, because Gemma is like kind of getting radicalized against powered people, and you kind of have seen her slowly throughout the show, like the way her science brain works. Like it's like, oh, at any moment Gemma could go dark. Adam, do you recall this kind of scene?
I don't remember it. I think it was. I'm a little impressed with this rewatch, seeing how much layers they put into this. You know, again, I always say coming out story, but we find out new information about some of the characters, and everybody has a different take on it, and that's very similar to me in a coming out story. But with Gemma kind of being the naysayer, kind of hateful, you know, it's hard to say it's bigoted because we don't really identify what this is so far as a trend or anything. But yeah, it was interesting to see that. But I see what the writers are doing. They're trying to have these sides form of having empathy or having fear, and what motivates them in responses to these things.
Yeah, especially I think with Gemma, that yes, it's fear-based. Her I wouldn't necessarily say bigotry either, but there's shades of that. But it's because she's a science girl and she can't explain it. She cannot articulate it. She cannot understand it, and that based on her personality scares the piss out of her. It bums me out to see her lose her footing on this.
Yeah.
Totally. Our next scene is a little fun one between Cal and Raina, but I'm going to take that as a tease and use this to do our 30-second break. If you're drinking this early in the day, it's a Sunday, refill your drinks, go to the bathroom, you know, do all the business. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra. We are here with our friend Adam talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 11. Things are getting fun. Cal is trying to get out of town. He sees Raina. I really love this scene because Cal is just so kooky, and we're just big Kyle fans here. God, I love that man so much. He does his little dance.
He does.
Yes. Tony, I want to hear your thoughts on this scene in terms of like Cal kind of abandoning Raina, how Raina's dealing with this. Like, it is kind of sad. She was so beautiful.
I know, man. I feel it. But at the same time, I am delighting in her suffering. She did all of this. She put all the pieces together. She suckered everybody, tricked people, lied, manipulated. And now every time she uses a bunch of adjectives to describe how she feels, I'm laughing. She's like, it hurts to move. Like, I feel like my insides are gravel. And I'm like, well, yeah, like payday has come. Like, it's brutal. I don't hate her character. I really love Raina, but like, this fallout of what she has wrought is very entertaining to me. But I think I find it interesting that he and his sort of scattered mania is just gonna take off, but it's Raina who tells him that Skye is likely back in the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think that kind of reignites him, is kind of my impression of that.
Yeah, it was kind of strange that it was kind of a hunch of hers. And she's like, she's probably with them. He's like, she's with them. I would have liked a little bit more certainty, or for him not to believe that as a gospel truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Adam, are you a Twin Peaks guy?
Yes. I never saw the third season, but my roommate is rewatching it. So sometimes I hear clips through the walls. But I love Kyle in that. I liked him in everything from Sex and the City to Dune. And I think he's great. I never really liked that character in S.H.I.E.L.D. though.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, I like him as an actor, but yeah, I don't know if it's like, because do we care who he is in the comic books?
I don't think we have an official note yet of who he exactly
And by
is.
that I mean if he's in the comic book.
I heard what you meant. Yeah. In a hypothetical way. Yeah.
Yes.
Really gets the game here, and I love that.
Yeah.
You guys are got me chomping at the bit for information. Like this is a really fun way to watch the show.
I really have to keep myself from giving you fake spoilers.
Okay, yeah.
I love that.
I feel like even my Professor X joke was kind of like a little too close to possibly be like, wait a second, is it?
I surely know they could not have gotten away with that for the same reason
Well,
that you're upset
know
about the
it.
origin story of Scarlet Witch. Like, they couldn't do it. They were not allowed. Yeah.
That's why I kind of thought it was a safe joke, but yeah,
it was a safe joke.
But yeah, I saw the last episode in this one recently, and I kind of liked how excited he was to see Skye. And I kind of like that they're playing him off kind of like almost like a Hulk, where he loses his temper and becomes a little bit more monstrous and such. But I feel like those types of characters can sometimes get old quickly, to me at least. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, etc. And we're just kind of seeing that, and that's one of the things that I love and don't love about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a lot of what they're doing is the versions they could get a hold of from the wider Marvel universe.
Yes.
And so this feels like he's kind of like a Hulk, but not really.
That's fair. I think the power set part is true. I think, but why it works so much for me is because he's so funny. Like he's when he does get angry, it's scary, but it's like a funny kind of scary, and that's why I think it works for me. Yeah. We have the scene between Bobby and Hunter where she says that her secret is that she's in a support group. Do you buy this, Tony?
I did not buy this, no, because it was reminding me that we've been kind of dropping seeds about her having her own mission in the previous episodes of this season. So like it reminded me like, oh yeah, no, you're up to something. We'll get a little bit more of that later. And it's but the thing is like, I don't think what she or Mac are doing is malicious or in any way harmful to the team. I that's the impression I'm getting now. Again, more secrets. I want to know, and I'll be patiently over here.
So you had no idea that her secret is actually that she's Wonder Woman.
Damn it! I knew they were doing that crossover. I thought it was going to come much later.
Jody said,
I
"I'll
actually,
live 10 years."
yeah, I don't remember what the mission is. So this is kind of a surprise for you and me both, Tony.
Great, great.
Oh, I love that. We can talk about that later when Tony leaves the room. Just a little bit more of the conversation where Gemma basically is like wants to put Raina down, and I love that. Like even like May is like, "Uh-oh, this is
Yeah.
not a good
So
look."
she's like, I'm
Gemma.
saying it's not the worst idea. And I'm like, what the fuck, Gemma?
Mm.
And it's so funny because that's so common with, and again, I use the term bigotry, which it's fear-based hate is kind of what I use as a grand thing. Bigotry is probably not the right word, but she's acting out of like fear of the unknown, etc. But it's so on brand for somebody who feels that way to not really own their hate and have indirect violence and be like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, if
This
they
is the
were to
best
do it.
option. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's perfect because that's how a lot of people feel about things. Is they're like, well, I don't hate them, of course, but if they were to die,
Yeah.
and it seems kind of on brand.
Yikes. And then we get the Hydra folks again. We see them, and we Dr. List. I want to bring him up because you may not have clocked, Tony, that's Henry Goodman. He was also he appeared with Von Strucker in the mid-credit scene for The Winter Soldier. So we've seen this guy before.
Oh wow. Okay. That's the guy who was like kind of leading the Hydra UN meeting, that guy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay,
Wait.
cool.
So that's fun. And then we get what I think is the meat of the episode. Fitz comes to see Sky, and there's a word he uses here. Tony, did you clock what it was?
No, you want to tell me? I don't remember.
No, you didn't notice, so I'm not going to bring it up.
It was a big thing, Tony.
You didn't clock, so you're just going to have to keep thinking about it. I literally wrote my notes. Did Tony clock it? And the answer is no. But our chat knows what I mean, and Adam knows what I mean.
I don't know, I don't know, Tony, how well you know comic books and such to know, like, Jamie, do you know that this is something that he is aware of 2 o'clock?
Tony is aware of this. Tony, like it's become actually an ongoing joke that Tony hasn't figured it out yet. But so Fitz is getting upset. It's making Sky upset. She causes this light to explode. She's bleeding. And basically though, Fitz ends up lying for her, which Tony, I'm sure that was a surprise.
No,
I was okay.
No, I was more surprised that he was so mean to her. And then him lying for her, while frustrating, it's frustrating because we have to learn over and over again that secrets are unhealthy in this team. Like I know that that's going to create conflict. He's saying, Fitz is basically saying, everybody, we're just going to chill out for now. We'll tell them later when everything calms down a little bit. I know that that's going to create drama. And so it's frustrating in that sense, but it's endearing to just, go along with Adam's queer analogy here. She has an ally, she has an ally in this thing that she's dealing with. And it warms me to know that he's doing this for her. And her response to that is so emotional and beautiful. So I'm of 2 minds about that whole business.
And so you can come out about plenty of things. Obviously, my kind of vantage point is queer, but like you are really afraid when you figure it out, and then that time in between you tell somebody, and you live with all of these possibilities in your head of, will everybody I love hate and run me out of town? Will I be accepted? Will I be able to keep this? Will it go away? All of the, keep it hidden. Will it go away? All these things. And so that's a really huge moment because, well, technically she was outed, but coming out to somebody and having them accept it is such a beautiful moment that I think that people who haven't even gone through something similar to that, it's touching.
Yeah, very much so.
I love it. And also I think to me, it's a surprise because the way he's like freaking out on her, and I initially, and I, part of me thinks that he was doing that to see what would happen, like in
Mhm.
terms of if emotionally, like could she be triggered? I could be wrong, but like that's how I kind of read his initial kind of freak out assessment. But maybe he just was freaking out. It's like, okay, take it back to when Willow came out to Buffy. She kind of freaks out for a second and then levels herself and realizes like, you're my friend, it's okay. So it could totally be that kind of thing as well. So in the midst of all this, Coulson goes to Trip's mom, which is like it's so brief, but it's so sad.
Yeah, it's a powerful moment.
And then we get this crazy Hydra attack where basically Shield tricks Hydra into killing each other. And they're the fact that they use the Terrigenesis like as a weapon is scary.
Yeah, we saw them do that when the actual UN meeting that Hydra crashed right earlier in this episode. They got a couple of people with it. It's freaky.
And then I also want to shout out that really cool moment where they're surrounding the car and then the car just fucking shoots them all.
Yes, that was nice. That was just a bonus. Like, here's how we get to take out some Nazi henchmen in the midst of our subterfuge. That was really good.
Do they make a distinction between modern day Hydra and being connected to Nazis back in World War II?
Yeah, in this season they've been doing that. Yeah.
How relevant today that we're wondering who is and isn't a Nazi?
Isn't that fun? Isn't it so fun?
Yeah. Sky straight up calls Ward a Nazi in the beginning of the season, 100%. And he's like,
in comics they really shy away, and Hydra was the word for Nazis because they didn't want to have kids comics have Nazis in them. And I'm sure that somebody will say, well, not exactly. But I feel like it's more so of a stand-in. So I'm curious what their modern day interpretation of it is, because I know in Captain America, they were the science division of Nazis.
Yeah. They fully acknowledge that here. And let's see, we did this now. Okay, Raina trying to kill herself. She finally got what she wanted, but now she's walking into traffic.
This is not what she wanted. This is not what she wanted. She did not get what she wanted. She got what she was entitled to, is what she got. She's walking into traffic.
I do get like so salty with her when she says to Cal, "Guy took what was mine," and it's like, that's not how it works. So she didn't like steal the better thing from you. It's clear that whatever was going to happen to you was inside you all along.
Is that clear to her?
I think Raina knows that. I do. I don't think she truly believes that Sky took what was hers. I think that she's just kind of projecting and wants to blame somebody, and she hates Sky.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know how much of them we've worked out in this world of like, on-off switch or something like that. That like maybe if she was there 30 seconds or they're sitting in other parts of the room, that their powers would in reverse if that's how Raina is thinking.
It's possible.
Yeah. That's what I took away from that moment, was that she thought that this was like a chance thing and she'd much rather have the, as Tony says, telekinesis.
Yeah.
In the
y'all shut up and leave me alone. I want to know what's going on in this show.
Tony, the chat is so disappointed in you.
I can't do anything. I don't watch this show.
Can I help
trying
him
to figure
a little
it
bit?
out.
Just gotta give a context clue with the like that's in the thing, not the Fitz things. I know that's probably too much fun.
No, you know what? I feel like just let him stew in it.
You guys are dicks.
Cody, he's like, just know. I was gonna try to throw you a life raft there.
Whatever.
You tried. No, this is more fun. I like torturing Tony. I don't really do that much in our relationship, so it's fun to do it in our show.
This is your outlet. Oh my god.
Yeah. As they say in the comments, let him suffer. So we get the post-credit scene, which is layered. We see that we joked about the toy Lola that Mac had made, Coulson, which has been a funny ongoing bit where it doesn't fly. But we learned that there's more to it than that. It's looking for Fury's toolbox, is what we find out. So Tony, you kind of said this, but while Mac and Bobby are doing something suspicious, you're not seeing them as bad guys.
No, it's just not the vibe I'm getting. They're keeping secrets. It's going to be a problem. They might be wrong for it, but I don't think that they're Hydra. I don't think they're double agents. I think there's some other element to it, some other entity. I think they are following orders in a weird way. So, but they're not Coulson. So yeah, I'm intrigued, but my impression is that they're not the bad guys.
Okay. All right. And then and we already talked about it up top, but like this really sweet, they're reminiscing about Trip. And I like when they all say, "Come on, girl," at the same time. Like it shows the bond. It's really sad because Trip was a great character, and you just didn't see that death coming.
Yeah. Do we know the meta story for this of why Trip is no longer with us? Did he get cast in something else, or?
No, I believe they wanted to kill somebody, and they thought that he would it would be him. I really think that it was just his time from a writing perspective to go, which is sad because there's so much they could have done with him, but and it could have been anybody, right? But also of the main people, he was never a series regular, so that I'm sure contractually there's some of them they couldn't have killed yet. I could be wrong about that.
Sure.
We need to get Craig Tilley back on the show and get some of those more. But Defrosted Robot says that BJ did have another role, so maybe that did have something to do with it. But well, I'll do some research and find out. Before we get into a little history, was there anything, Adam, about this episode that we didn't really touch on that you wanted to comment on or bring up?
I don't think so. I think we saw hints of there's when Reyna is later saved, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that crazy thing getting.
Unless we're saving that for last. I think that's the only thing that we haven't covered yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Gordon saves her, basically.
Yeah.
There's more than just Gordon there, right?
Well, Shield's about to attack her and take her in, and then Gordon comes in and saves her. I think it's only Gordon.
Isn't there like a shield, like a literal shield around them as well?
Yes, Adam. There was a force field shield thing. I don't.
That's strange. Yeah.
Everybody leave me alone.
Fair. Tony, was there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No.
Poor Tony. I love this torture. Tony, do you have an episode MVP?
Sky. Sky is my episode MVP. Her just the emotionality of her performance as she's going through these changes. It was very compelling. I think she's my MVP of the episode. Adam,
what about you?
Fitz. I think he's such a sweet man, and although Ward could get it, Fitz could keep it.
No, that's nice.
Nice. I need that on a t-shirt. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I'm gonna say for me it was a tie for Sky and Fitz, so I'm glad that we kind of all ended up in the same zone. Like their scene together is beautiful. There are a couple. It's such a good friendship. Like, I don't think there's anyone shipping them. And if they are, I'm sorry. Maybe there's one guy out there who really wants Sky and Fitz to be a couple. But he's just a good, sweet boy and a good friend. I love him. So there's not a ton of history for this episode, but the Art of Evolution Initiative, we're back. If you recall, Tony, last year in the second half of season 1, they started to get artists to make posters specifically for the episode. So Aftershocks does have its own poster. Maria, if you want to pull that up, if we can take a look at it. It's kind of small. I couldn't get a big version of it, but if you look closely, we've got Sky in the background, we've got Spiky Reyna, we've got Coulson, and at the bottom we have Sky from the last episode where she's coming out of the Terrigenesis. So a fun little thing. But an interesting thing is that this poster was created by Gabriel Delato, who is the co-creator of an important comic character that I was hoping I could say in this episode.
It just keeps.
I know. So interesting, like the very important. Tony. Is there? Well, actually, no. Before Tony says his goodbyes, Adam, in case anyone's leaving with Tony, where can the people find you? What do you have to plug? What are you up to?
So I made a short movie a week, in January. I've been posting them on my Instagram. So at Adam Guerino, if you want to check it out. There's a link there if you want to get my independent comic, Junie Fringe. It's about a mother-daughter bounty hunter duo. It's kind of like Show Moms in space. And beat me.
Hell yeah, that sounds incredible. Tony, say some thank yous.
Yeah, thank you to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our artwork. Thank you to Ryan Miera of Yellow Pills at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram for doing our music. Thank you to our producer Maria. Thank you, producer Maria.
You're very welcome.
And thank you, Adam. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I can't wait to have you back.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
Yes, there's nothing better in my life than meeting someone who I'm like, I want to be this person's friend, and also they watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so we can get them on the podcast. That's a beautiful double whammy. Reminder to everybody to follow us at LitoPod on Instagram and Blue Sky. I've said it before, the second our Blue Sky gets more followers than our Twitter, I'm never using Twitter again. So please help me, get me, follow us on Blue Sky. Like and subscribe, Spotify, YouTube, all those places. Now that we're back on the main channel, leave us those reviews. If you ask us a question, we'll answer it if you go on and leave a review. I know that somebody really had commented that they want Tony to see the dub smashes between the Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast, but that happened during the season 2 Agent Carter era, so I think we're going to save those for Tony, but don't worry, Tony will watch those videos. They're very fun. If you're watching along with Tony and you don't want spoilers, get the fuck out.
I gotta leave the room. I'm leaving the room.
Bye, Tony.
I really thought he was gonna get it.
I was like, it's called Aftershocks. You still think it's telekinesis? That was going to be the life preserver that I was throwing. I feel like that was like it's not, not the buzzword for, can we say who they are now?
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah.
So it's not saying Inhumans, even though I don't know how you can know who Inhumans are but not know what Terrigenesis is.
Well, that's what's so funny, Adam, is that first of all, I've said this a million times in the podcast, but in our old place, it's not up now. I have a prop from season 4, and it literally has the word Inhumans in giant letters in Tony's home. He also he knows the show Inhumans existed at the same time.
Yeah.
He also I think he doesn't remember this, but we've watched the first episode of the animated show that has Quake. So I know he knows who Daisy is, and we've now said the name Daisy, and it's just so funny that when Fitz said Inhuman, I was like, all right, Tony's gonna get it. He just,
to be fair, Daisy, I don't know. She's not a huge. She was at this time a little bit more prominent in the comics, but I don't know. I wouldn't blame anybody if they were like, I read comics, but I have no idea who that is.
Yeah. And I can't pretend that I knew 10 years ago because I didn't. But it is funny that that Tony isn't piecing it together. Even I did give him do you think it's mutants? I really thought then he'd be like, oh no, but Inhumans are the other ones.
He kind of took my Professor X thing seriously, and I felt bad. I thought no,
I love that. That was good. That was no. That was perfect because it gave me a segue to ask about mutants. And it's fun. Honestly, I think it's fun torturing him. So I think we're going great. One fun thing that happens in this episode that I really wanted to talk about was in the moment where Coulson fake dies.
Yeah.
Clark later towards the end of the show will talk about how many times he's died, which is by the time you get to the end of the show a lot. And I feel like in the count this is counted. I think it's 7 times if you count this fake out death. Yeah.
Because you said before, oh, well, they're not going to shoot them now. I kind of, obviously that wouldn't happen. I'm like, they die a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know how often they stay gone for more than an episode, but him and May both go through the ringer a couple times. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is going to sound really like a large claim about TV in general, but I feel like this was kind of the end of the era where characters were just kind of constantly killed all the time. I think that Game of Thrones kind of brought that back, where the shock value of a main character dying, and I think the CW ruined it. And
yeah, fair.
I think that now writers, they don't want to emotionally manipulate their audiences so much by having somebody die so often that they're going to come back, and you're just like, whatever, I don't believe you.
That's a really good point. And, like the CW, they have the Lazarus pit, so they can do it anytime they want. And I think that an interesting thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or about this era of watching is that I think that younger viewers, and I apologize to Gen Z, I think that they're unforgiving of character deaths in a way that, like, I love it. And an example is like when Jeffrey Bell, he wrote the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finale, but he also wrote and directed the Angel finale. And that's my favorite series finale of all time. I love To Be Hurt. I love that they kill off my favorite characters in that episode. And so when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series finale came, I'm like, Jeffrey Bell's got my characters again. I thought for sure people were going to die. And it was kind of a relief that I'm glad they didn't in this case. And I think that, like, that's something to consider. I think you're right. I think that Lost changed it for network TV, because it used to be it would only happen in a finale. Because of, but in Lost changed the game. Somebody can die halfway through a season, and I think that's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you just always need to be able to keep them on their toes, your audience. And if they don't think that the death is real, if they know a death is coming, then you're not doing your job right. Yeah, and it's funny because, speaking of Game of Thrones, I was actually inspired by comic books. George R. R. Martin was inspired by the Avengers character Wonder Man, who was introduced and was seeming like a hero, and then you find out he's a villain, and then he makes a hero sacrifice and he dies. And he said that was so influential to him to have people kind of go through this like intricate thing and then have them go. And this is, well before Phoenix or Jean Grey dying. Back in the day. So it's interesting when these things happen in comic books now, because comic book heroes do be dying all the time.
Yeah. It's first of all, really excited for the Wonder Man show. Just want to throw that out there. A good example of what you're talking about is, like I said, I just watched The Defenders for the first time, getting ready for Born Again, and like it ends with spoilers if you don't want spoilers for the show. It ends with like Daredevil dying, and then like 5 minutes later, it's like he's not really dead, and it's like, of course he's not fucking dead. Like it does feel kind of like, okay, there are instances where it's just, what are you doing? What is the point of this?
Yeah, you don't think to yourself like, oh my gosh, they're dead. You're like, what's the angle? And but
do you want to
go ahead?
No, finish this thought, because I was moving on.
Yeah, so that's why I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be real when they shot them. That's all.
Fair. Do you want to talk a little bit about Cal, about his comics character, because you had teased it before? So is it why you don't like him because he's so different from the comics?
A little bit. I also just think like they get the bargain bin throwaway characters in S.H.I.E.L.D. so often that he's not really that impressive of a villain. And also, like, I mean, I'm sure that I'll be corrected by this. I don't remember him having that much of a relation to S.H.I.E.L.D. or, so it seems like it's kind of we want this character to have visual effects we can afford, who's in our Rolodex that we can use that is not being used by the MCU. And so it doesn't feel very intentional. It feels kind of random.
So Kenneth Smith in the comments says that Mr. Hyde is actually a Daredevil villain in the comics, so which I did not know. So that's
I think
fair.
He's bounced around a couple of properties, but not known for S.H.I.E.L.D. for sure. Yeah,
but he was Daisy's dad, so that's that
in the comics
makes
as well.
sense. Yeah, the obviously, like, it's all coming down to Daisy. So and I can't wait until we get to season 3 and we can just call her Daisy, because it's such a pain in the ass to call her Sky. Was there anything else spoilery that you wanted to talk about before we say goodbye?
The person that I saw out and about the other day was Gabriel Luna. And I was so obnoxious with my friend because I was like, I think that's Gabriel Luna. And my friend is a big Last of Us fan and was like, oh my God, it's Tommy. And I was like, yeah, I actually really, I met him once before after he did Ghost Rider. I have a comic book signed by him, a Ghost Rider comic for his character, which I thought was really fun. and such. And so I was annoying to my friend because he was starstruck. I'm like, oh yeah, I know him.
No big deal.
Like, how to
It's
compare-
you know what's funny is Ghost Rider is the only spoiler Tony knows. You could
Oh
have
really?
brought it.
So I could have
It's like the
said it.
one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, it's funny. Tony and I, in the end of 2023, we participated in this lip sync battle show, which we won for the record.
Nice.
And Gabriel Luna was there beforehand, and I've met him before as well because of my Shield stuff, and he was so sweet. Because I had moderated the Agents of Shield 100th episode panel, and so I don't remember who was in, but he looked at me and he goes, "We've worked together before," and I was like, "That's generous." That was a generous way to describe the other time we met. But he's a sweetheart, and it's nice to see him thriving.
Nice. Yeah, and very very handsome.
Oh, that is also true.
And it is sort of, before you would ask me to do the show, I saw him and I remember thinking to myself, like, I would rewatch the Ghost Rider episodes because I really, really liked his character arcs.
Season 4 is my favorite season by a long shot. So,
well,
yeah, absolutely.
Have me back for that because I need no excuse to watch Gabriel Luna, but yeah.
Yeah. You'll probably hear from me in season 3 as well.
Okay.
The pool, like we need, the amount of friends I'm like, watch Agents of Shield so you can be on my podcast. The pool is, specific. It's funny because Defrost Robot says season 3 be peak. Season 3 is my least favorite season. So I love that we all have different opinions.
And
everyone's
of season 3. Which season? Yeah. Like I don't know. It's not like Buffy to me where I'm like, I know who the big bad is. I know this character is introduced this time. What's the big one for season 3? Is that something we can say at this time?
Yeah, I'm actually glad that this is now coming up because I wanted to mention this when Gemma says like this could become an epidemic. That is kind of what happens. The Terrigenesis gets in the fish oil and it transforms so many Inhumans. So it's like the Inhuman season.
And Daisy and the hot fire guy kind of go on the run. Is that season 3?
It's Lincoln, the electric hands guy. Yeah. I fucking hate Lincoln. Lincoln's on the run. But Daisy's like kind of leading the charge of helping the Inhumans basically all come together. And then we get Hive, which is when Ward becomes Hive.
Yeah, he can't get it with Hive. That was a boner killer.
Yeah, I agree. There's some shock in the comments that people didn't know I hated Lincoln. I hate Lincoln. I'm so sorry.
I like Lincoln, although I remembered him having fire powers and not electrics. So I guess he's like made too much of an impression.
Yeah, we often compare him to Riley. He's like the Riley.
Riley was my favorite Buffy boyfriend. So yeah, I think we talked about this at my party actually.
We may have.
I hate Spike. I like him as a character. I hate him as a boyfriend. And Riley is my favorite because guess what? I'm also from Iowa.
Okay, there it is.
So I like the sweet boys. And although, like I said, Ward could get it, but Fitz could keep it. I like.
I love that. I really. We have a rule on this show where when Buffy comes up, you have to drink. So we just got a lot of people drunk. I think. Take your sip. Adam, thank you so much for joining. This was such a fun episode. It feels so good to be back.
Thank you very much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Good. I'm so glad. Enjoy the Oscars, everybody. We will see you next week. We're back on March 9th. I don't know the time, but I'm assuming it's our normal 5 Pacific, but it is daylight savings time. So don't forget about that change. Have a good one. I hope everyone that's not Amelia Perez wins today. Goodbye.